Hello, everyone, and either good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you are calling in across the globe. Welcome. My name is Bronwen Sanders, and I am a director of admissions at NYU Stern. And I am joined by my colleague, Prachi Joshi. In a minute, we're going to be introducing Michelle and possibly one other of our esteemed alumni. But first, if you'll allow me, I'd like to provide, just for a few minutes, an overview of our program here at NYU Stern. So thrilled that so many of you have joined us today from all different parts of the world. And thank you again for being here today. So today, the reason we're doing this is we want to deliver to you a webinar featuring two of our esteemed alumni. So over the next 45 minutes or so, our panelists are going to be sharing their experiences as current students when they were in the program, and then now how the program has really changed them as they are now alumni of the program. So you're going to be hearing their individual stories. Hi, Henry. And how the program has impacted their careers. And then at the end of the session, we will be taking questions. We will have them typed in, if you don't mind, into the Q&A box. So you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So with that, without further ado, let me do a quick brief overview of the MSBAi program. So the MSBAi program is a one-year part-time program, and we've designed it with working professionals in mind. We are excited, we just announced last week that our program now has a new name. It is now called the MS in Business Analytics and AI program. The name change is really a clear reflection on how MSBAi currently integrates cutting-edge AI with business analytics into the curriculum, and was really designed to more accurately describe what our program is already delivering in the classroom. So that's been very well received and an exciting, development over the past week. So just a little bit about our program. We have one intake per year each spring starting in May. And we recognize that your schedule is already packed. You have a demanding full-time job, and we're really now adding a rigorous academic program to your already busy lives. So over this course of this one-year time frame, the entire cohort of students will attend modules that take place at NYU Stern, and then at one rotating global location. NYU Stern faculty are teaching at all the modules, and upon graduation, students are awarded an MS in Business Analytics and AI master's degree. In between modules, and we'll go over this in a minute, is that students are completing about 25 hours per week via online learning platforms when you are not physically in a module on campus. So we have one intake per year. And you can see here, we are accepting applications for the program starting this May of 2025. So here you can see the module schedule. This is also on our website, which is spread out through 2 calendar years. So this way you're able to take off vacation or flexible work time between the years of 2025 and 2026. So as I said before, in between the modules, you'll have a few weeks or months off. So meaning you're not physically in class, but you're still engaged with the program through online readings, assignments, either to prepare you for an upcoming session or to integrate the learnings from a previous session. And we estimate this work to be about 20 to 25 hours per week. And all activity is completed asynchronously. So there's no time you would need to log on for an online course. And as you'll see, in March of 2026, we will be in Abu Dhabi, which will be our global module. And here, I am going to hand it over to my colleague Prachi to walk through our admissions process.
Thank you, Bronwen. Yes, so as Bronwen mentioned, I'd like to now take a couple moments to just walk you through the admissions process, which you'll see here is broken down into 2 steps, the informational stage and the application stage. The first step in our application process is to submit the preliminary information form along with your resume, which you may have already completed. Once we determine that you've met our prerequisites for this program, you can move forward with submitting the formal application. Once you feel comfortable about moving forward with your application, you'll proceed directly to submitting it through our online portal. This process is both straightforward and very personal. There's not usually one part of the application process that will make or break your candidacy. So we do recommend that you focus on the entire story you're presenting to our admissions team in your application. You'll see here on the screen that there are a few items that are associated with the application, which you'll be asked to submit to the online portal. These include an updated resume, one essay, official transcripts in English, which must come from your university, one letter of recommendation, a copy of your photo page of your passport, and the application fee. GMAT and GRE scores are generally not required on the initial application. However, our committee does reserve the right to request these scores if they feel they're needed to make a well-informed admissions decision. You can also submit your application for initial review, even if your recommendation letters or your transcripts are still being processed and not ready to be submitted. When we receive your completed application, our team may schedule a final selection interview as part of the application process. We are currently accepting applications on a rolling basis for the MSBAi class of 2026. The next application deadline for this class, which begins in May 2025, is November 1st, 2024. Once your application is complete, it will be reviewed by our admissions committee, and a decision will typically be made in about 3 weeks. Spaces in our class are filled on a rolling basis, so we do recommend that applicants submit in advance of the deadline. However, we also want to encourage you to submit when you feel ready and you feel like it's your strongest possible application. Our admissions team, no worries.
Thanks, Prachi. Yeah.
Our admissions team can be reached by email or phone Monday through Friday, which you can see up on your screen. That's our email address, our updated email address. And the phone number is the same one that we've had. We've included a QR code as well on your screen that you can use to fill out our preliminary information form. Just as a reminder, the preliminary information form does require you to submit a resume as well. So this allows us to have a better idea of your candidacy prior to moving you through the application process. With that, we can now start the Q&A panel, and we'd like to give you a few moments to add your questions to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prachi. And Henry, I'll start by saying, Henry and Michelle, thank you so much for being part of this today. As an aside, Henry and Michelle are part of what we call our MSBAi Ambassador Program. And that's how special our alumni are to us. This program was originally launched in 2013, and it's been such an amazingly successful program over the past 10 plus years that we decided to come together and have a more formalized ambassador program. And these ambassadors are really strong alumni that are amazingly give back to future students and other alumni to really help them through this process and, share their own experiences of what it was like to go through the program and how it has helped their career since then. So we really appreciate you guys being part of this today. So I would love and I'm going to have ladies first on Michelle, if maybe you could just briefly, name where you work currently, when you graduated from the program, and where you're located.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Bronwen, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to meet everybody. And all the best luck to the new journey that lies ahead. I am currently from the class of 2022. I'm still located in New York. I'm actually currently originally from Los Angeles, but I moved out here for this program. And even though the modules were mixed, I just think I fully got what I can out of it, just always going to Stern, the library, etc., running into professors. And currently I work at Analect, which is a data hub for Omnicom. I'm a technical business analyst there. and I still live in New York.
That's great. Thank you. Henry?
Hi, everyone. My name is Henry. I'm based out of Philadelphia, and I work for a company called CSL as an Intelligent Automation Senior Manager. In my role, I lead a development team, and we mainly look for automation and AI opportunities.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to maybe start, Michelle, I wanted to maybe, if you could, tell me a little bit about when you were first thinking about applying to a program, where were you in your career and what motivated you to want to pursue a business analytics degree?
Okay, well, I guess I should have also added that I also do have my own e-commerce business where I ship out baklava through all 50 states. So I would think that was like my biggest like motivation for this program, because I knew I wanted to dive deeper into data, but I didn't want just like a program where I go in every day and like just in and out of class. Like I feel like I did that with my undergrad, and now I wanted a different experience. So what really pointed out to me about the NYU program was that it was an executive master's. So you're already dealing with people from all different scopes of the world, where an average MSBA might have someone like 25 years old, give or take a couple years. And then with that, I just wanted to see how I can like expand my business from the small LA market to all 50 states, since the US has a bigger clientele for that. So that's what really stuck out to me. At that point, I was working in finance, working at restaurants, and just kind of managing their departments via that. But this stuck out to me, so I applied for this program. And then now I've actually everything that I learned in the cloud via NYU, which is like utilizing AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. I now do that in my current role.
Wow.
So whatever I did learn from this program also helped me get the role that I'm currently in, as I also still have my e-commerce job. So
Oh, wow. You're busy. Yeah.
we're juggling both, but it's good. It's good. It's good to stay busy.
That's amazing. And yeah, I do want to circle back to more of that in a minute. And maybe Henry, could you tell me where you were and what motivated you at the time to pursue a master's in business analytics?
Sure, yeah, I was actually working in Australia. So CSL is a very large Australian company, working in the rare disease space. So I was kind of trying to put my foot back in the door and back in the US market.
Yeah.
And actually, I had just completed an MBA at the time. So I was looking for something that, I can continue learning, developing more skills within the realm of data science and AI, without really the opportunity cost of giving up my full-time job to pursue more school. So that really appealed to me, being able to work full-time while balancing a great degree from a brand name school like NYU. Something that surprised me about the cohort being not just the diversity in terms of where people are from, but in terms of academic backgrounds too, because it was quite common that a lot of people actually had like a second degree or some type of certification like CFA. There was actually like a medical doctor in my class, other MBAs like myself. So I found that very interesting. And then also quite common in the same time in terms of wanting to redevelop yourself, rebrand, and just stay abreast of all these different trends in the industry.
Yeah. Just to keep, so reflecting back, can you tell us, Henry, a little bit about how, it's only been about a year since you graduated. So it might be too early to tell, but are there any indications of where you feel the program or the curriculum kind of has impacted your own professional goals or career right currently?
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely two big impacts from my side. So I mentioned in the beginning that I lead a technical team. So because I have an MBA, I'm more of a business person, being able to identify requirements and communicate that to create solutions. But because I do lead a technical team now, being able to, having built those models from the program, getting hands-on experience with AI models using Python, R, definitely has improved my communication of those technical requirements to my team, and allows me to just work with a broader set of individuals. And besides the curriculum itself, I would say the brand name is invaluable, I would say. When you tell people that you're a part of a Stern, not just NYU, definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. People are definitely interested in that. Want to strike up a conversation about the reputation of the school. And besides that, you know, even though I graduated a year ago, there's so much support in terms of like alumni activities and connections. So it's definitely been invaluable from my perspective.
That's great. That's great to hear. Michelle, how about you? Because you've got it on, you know, you have a couple things. It's like you have your professional, but you know, you have a varied career, right? So tell us a little bit about how you feel like it's changed you.
Well, kind of just backing up on what Henry said, I originally come from like a business background too. So trying to dive deeper into data, and like I know my initial approach was like, how do I utilize data to grow my business, whether that's like through marketing or what other approach. But what helped me with my career was just, it also opened up a whole different like set of skills that I can now utilize in the workforce, where before I was like a senior analyst at NYU's hospital, but now being a technical analyst of FinOps, so it's still like overlapping, but I can now work in the DevOps department. I'm reading through different types of data queries just to see, is that like applicable? Because at the end of the day, it's all cost. So if we're writing X queries in our data source, like why is it stored there? How long do we want it stored? All that was also part of like learning that in the program. And then because Omnicom is a big media group, then it's also ties back to like a lot of it is like marketing expenses, or how do they utilize that type of data to now like make more money or sell more products or whatever it is, via just looking at like finance numbers before.
That's fantastic. And, you know, I think one thing, if you could potentially, you know, help maybe some of our, you know, our people that have called in today, is many people might be thinking, you know, what kind of master's is right for them? You know, there might even be people that are looking to explore doing a full MBA program, right? Which many times would either, if they were doing a full-time program, they'd have to quit their job,
Right.
or an executive MBA program that would take, you know, much longer than in one year. Can you, maybe each of you, were you looking at other types of programs, without naming names, but or other types of programs? And how did you, you know, what appealed to you about doing the MSBAi program, and at the time was MSBA at Stern, and why choose our program over other programs?
I can start. Well, at the end of the day, I feel like when you're going to tap into like a business type of degree, of course, you want to learn the skill set, and that's what you're going for and paying for. But a big part of it is, how do I network? And like Henry said, when you say NYU Stern and people raise their eyebrows, etc., then for me, that was like killing two birds with one stone type of thing, that I got NYU, but I also got my data degree within that same time. So for me, it was like, how do I grow my business? Which also I need to like network, build a community around me, whether that's like gonna eventually trickle into like a workforce type of career, or maybe that helps you with my business. But that's why, going back to a lot of other MSBA programs I looked at that were full-time, where a lot of the people were like just like coming out of undergrad, just diving into that, which all props to them, good for them as well. But I think I needed something a little bit different. So that's why when you dive into, not only is this an executive master's, this was also like a global degree. So I got to meet people from all walks of the world. You know, like I'm close to my classmates in Singapore or Dubai or this, that, where maybe I wouldn't have gotten that exposure had I just gone to like a full-time program here. Right. So like you said, people didn't also have to leave their jobs. It's kind of just learning time management for that next year and a half. And then you don't know what comes out of it. Maybe some people grow in their actual career, they get other jobs, but it's just being open, going to these modules, going to Abu Dhabi, traveling to New York if you're not locally based, and just being present when you can be, but also learning to balance like your regular life, which maybe can be family, work, whatever it is to each person.
Yeah, those are excellent points. Henry,
Awesome.
how about you? Did you look at any other kind of, or look at any other programs at all?
Yeah, just to add on to what Michelle said. So like I did look at full-time programs, but for me, like I was trying to contemplate the state of the economy in the US. So where we are now, and then, once I graduate in 1 to 2 years, definitely a risk, I would say, in terms of like full-time program, where you graduate, you might not have a job
Right.
after. So definitely viewed MSBA with NYU definitely as a, as a benefit, being able to continue working, get more experience, and to continue to refine your skills, so you're not too rusty once you do re-enter the workforce. Besides that, I definitely agree with what Michelle said. So even though you're only in person for like 5 weeks, I believe, and most of it's remote, you actually make very strong connections with individuals. So those 5 weeks are going to be super busy. It's not just the classroom component. You're still going out, attending events, hanging out with your colleagues, and really making lifelong friends. So totally agree with what Michelle said. And then, being able to travel now to these different countries and knowing 1 or 2 people in each of these countries is really cool. And just catching up and revisiting those friendships.
That's great. That leads me to my next question. I mean, we often say that students in a cohort type of environment are building like an amazing community. So you're not just learning from faculty, this amazing faculty at Stern, but you're also learning from the peers within your cohort. Can you describe a little bit about how you interact in a given module and how do you get to know people in your cohort? I mean, I know the answer of how you guys, but I'd love to hear your own experience of like what that looks like and how those bonds are made during the program. Michelle, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I was also our class representative. It was me and another colleague, Hamza. But I would say that I think I took most of the initiative for that. He was also based in Abu Dhabi, so he wasn't always as present. But again, what Henry said, like, yes, it's those long packed weeks, but class is what, like 9 to 5 or 6. And then after that, I feel like that's where like our strongest bonding moments are. So I try to always see like what activities can we do, whether it's like a dinner or try to plan an event or go bowling or whatever it is, like just being mindful of other people and like not only just saying, okay, we're going to go to the same spot across the street from school just because it's relative and right there. So it's like, how do we build these lifelong memories, especially for people who aren't from New York? So going to games, doing things like that. And then of course, traveling in Abu Dhabi, we were together like the whole time, which was really like some of the best memories that I've ever had. And like, I'm glad that I pushed our program to go to Abu Dhabi, even though it was during that COVID-y time.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. So kind of just making every day like worthwhile. I understand that it's like tiring, but it's those short 5 weeks. So it's kind of being like a yes man in those moments instead of saying like, oh, I'm tired next time. Well, next week we're not together. So it's kind of just like, utilize it now, live it up now. And then also, obviously we're all adults, so just make it to class tomorrow.
That's great. That's great. And I think a question that comes up from prospective students quite a bit too is, how are you staying between modules, right? You're doing about 20 to 25 hours a week of that independent work. I guess 2 things is, how do you make the most out of that time? And how do you manage the workload with your full-time positions? So how do you, how did you guys each find success managing that workload in between modules?
Sure.
Do you want to maybe start, Henry?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So for me, at least it was all about planning. So I know that this was going to be a rigorous program. The programs are upfront about the number of hours it will take. You can expect to study each week. So firstly, it's communicating that to my personal network. So my wife, my friends, just making it clear that, hey, don't take any offense. We might not be able to hang out as much for this year, but we can definitely catch up later. Besides that, also with your employer. So being as transparent as possible. So I'm pretty fortunate that I'm fully remote. but you'll still be traveling a lot. So, excuse me. You'll definitely need to be upfront with your employer because you'll need to take 5 weeks of PTO.
Yep.
And then obviously outside of work, you'll be very busy, so you won't be able to take as many meetings. So making sure you discuss a plan with your employer, your manager, being able to manage that. And then really just, trying to potentially postpone big life events. For me, like I purposely didn't want to have a kid during the program, for example. I had one right after instead. So I'm so happy I did that. But that's not to say, that's not to say that's impossible. Obviously there's other folks in class that had children and they still managed it perfectly fine. But just something to consider because you will be learning a lot and you will want to invest in those social relationships.
That's great. That's great.
And I just wanted to add on
Please.
to exactly what Henry said. Of course, like speaking transparently with your employer, figuring out that schedule, etc. But also, I understand that like we're not all together. Maybe it's just 5 weeks, but like whether it's just like a couple people that you meet in your program that you instantly connect with, or I would say like utilize the capstone group that you end up picking because you're going to work with them for a year. So you're always working with them. You're always working on the same project throughout the year. So you're in the same classes together at the same time. So it's kind of like that was like motivation for each other of like keeping each other in line at the same time and making sure, because like Henry said, like each module is like, let's say 5 weeks, it's like, this is due. How do we backtrack from there? So keeping each other up to date on assignments, whatever it is, or just looking through each other's code. If there's a certain question that you have, like, I think that's what keeps it like intact throughout the like times that we're like not together.
Yeah. Michelle, that's a great segue over to, because it's actually going to be, I think there's a few questions coming in from attendees. So I will ask the question about the capstone. Number one, do you remember a little bit more about can you share with the audience like what your capstone team did? Because that is a big part of our program. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to hear, maybe can you tell me a little bit about your capstone experience, describe what the project was and what that journey was like for you?
Yeah, so we were presented with some we had to come up with our own capstone ideas that we thought would be fitting. And then 2, we also had other type of businesses come out and reached out to us and see if like we're able to pick that up as a capstone project, then we can go from there. So that's what ended up happening with my team. We had some old alumni come in and pitch to us about Anheuser-Busch. So at that time, their newest product was Bud Light Seltzer, and they wanted to project of how they could sell more seltzer throughout the states because their biggest sales were just in certain hubs, whether it's like Miami, LA, whatever, etc. And I thought that was most fitting because like backtracking to my baklava business, again, I thought mine was a little bit simpler because now I don't have to deal with alcohol where the seltzer had an age restriction, etc. So to me, instantly when I heard that, I was like, I want to be on that capstone project. So for some people, it's either they build a bond with some people very quickly on that they kind of want to all do one project together. Or I think if you see a project that seems the most fitting, just go to that because that's what you're going to like learn the most with. And maybe that's something that you can also bring a different set of eyes and perspective to that versus going into something blindly, like maybe a healthcare project that you've never done before, which is also refreshing. But I think if there's a two-way street that we can like meet up on, why not? So that's what was like the most fitting for me. And then, yeah, we just kind of had to make sure that we met up accordingly and kind of like took it month by month and then broke that out like bi-weekly to see some weeks were busier than others. But I thought that was the best fit for me. And then we built them out like a map through our Shiny and just kind of projected on like highlighting what states they can like focus more on now to forecast future sales.
That's fantastic. Henry, what about you? How about your experience on your capstone?
Sure. So yeah, I had a similar experience to Michelle, of course. But for me, I took an opposite approach. So what I did was I formed a team of people that I thought I wanted to work with. but also made sense from like a skills perspective.
Yeah.
So you'll have that opportunity to demonstrate your skills, or at least market your skills, whether you're more of an analytical person, more of a presenter. So the program does actually organizes that for you and does a really great job in terms of trying to help you organize the capstone teams.
Can you
So
go into that a little bit more? I think that's a helpful thing because I think it helps people to think about their own skills. Do you remember what kind of things they asked you to identify as your own skills? Do you remember some of those?
sure, yeah. So basically, it's a like a Kanban board. You have different categories on a whiteboard, and then you also have 3 sticky notes. So each sticky note represents a different skill. So like data analytics, coding, or presenting, and I think there's one other. But essentially, you can put down what you think are your top 2 to 3 skills, and then everyone can look at the board, see whose names is associated with that, and that can also help you form teams from like a skills perspective. But for me, my situation is a bit different because I worked with a couple of individuals as like in the very first class before we even met. So I formed a strong relationship with a couple of those folks, and we started forming teams before that, even that exercise. But yeah, my advice would definitely be, if you do pursue the program and if you do get to this point of the capstone, then definitely put yourself out there. Make sure people know at least your name and what you can bring in terms of analytics or other skills, and then that will help you in terms of forming teams later on for the capstone.
That's fantastic. I wanted to see, there are a couple questions, and I thought the timing is right, that came through. Is what would each of you say? I mean, in terms of someone, we often get this question of someone that comes from a less technical background. What would be your advice to them? If they are coming in without coding experience, which many of our students or prospective students do not come from a coding background, what kind of advice would you give to them to best prepare for this program or, be ready for it? Any advice on that? Henry, do you have a?
Yeah, I can start it off.
Sure.
From my personal experience in my class, I saw most people have either like a business background, finance, or also some folks had computer science. So definitely varied. I think it helps if you have some kind of coding experience. I'm definitely more on the business side. So what I kind of did to prepare was I took some online classes via YouTube or like Data Camp.
Yeah.
Just so I can at least understand the basics of Python and R, because almost every class will require some level of either mining or model generation. So yeah, even if you don't have the skills today, like you can definitely take the next steps in terms of learning the basics, and you'll definitely expand upon that. The courses do move pretty quick, so that would definitely be my suggestion. Yeah, I think that's for me.
Yep, and I kind of want to add the same. I come from a finance background as well, and then I kind of just like when I knew that like I really wanted to do this program, I kind of just started like teaching myself the basics just so I can at least maybe read this language in a form.
Right.
And then yeah, like Henry said, it moves fast, so that's why I'm like really big on like either that's your capstone team members or like befriending a couple people early on. It really does help you because we're not always on campus or something that you can just run into a professor or somebody else and ask. So it's like having that other person that you can reach out to, or like, hey, can you look over my code for a second? I don't know why I keep getting this error. Maybe you forgot a comma. I don't know. So it's like different for every person, but it's really also about building that tight cohort team. And then from there, that's also building your network. So why not?
That's right. That's a great point. I did want to ask you, each of you as well, what, for someone that is sitting here listening in, what kind of, and they're struggling to know if the time is right to do the program, right? What kind of, what kind of person would you feel like would most benefit from doing a business analytics and AI program like ours? In terms of, where they are in their career, who do you think would most benefit from a program like this?
I mean, personally, I think if you're sitting here and you've already come this far, then I think you'll benefit from it, regardless of like where you sit across the world. But I think my biggest thing is like, call it cheesy or whatever you want, but what really is like your 5 to 10 year plan. And even if that's like leaving your current company and role or growing within, then what is this program going to give you? So for me, like I ended up, I'm thankful that I was able to start a new role at Analect, but I can also grow my e-commerce business on the side while I do both. So I feel like I can give and take from both sides. And if I look back at what 2021, when I was sitting here and applying, I didn't have either of those. So it's like looking at like, where do you want to grow from there? And like, sure, it's a lot of work, but I'm thankful to be where I'm at. And eventually, again, in the next 5 years, if my plan stays where it's at, then this was even more beneficial because I grew immensely within that decade.
Yeah. Michelle, question that came to my mind is oftentimes we hear from prospective students about the different, career opportunities after graduating like a program like this, right? And I feel that, in my role at Stern, particularly as when I did career coaching at NYU Stern, I often will tell people that the network is really where a lot of change can happen in who you meet and how you use the degree.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you how you talked about the master's when you were looking for a new position or position yourself for that next role. Did Stern come into the conversation at all, or this program, as you were seeking new employment?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, a lot of the times I would start off an interview with my capstone project as well, because
Yeah.
it tied hand in hand also with like my baklava business. So at that point, if they wanted me to present our shiny diagram, then I'm happy to do so.
Yeah.
But again, kind of even elaborating on what Henry said early on, like I live in New York, people know NYU, people know Stern. And then now it's kind of like, well, I didn't just get a regular MBA, I got a master's in analytics. And then maybe if you have to like dive a little bit deeper into that,
Right.
then it's again the skill set that I learned from school, and like it allowed like everything that I've learned, I can now utilize in this like current role that I'm in at Analect. So yeah, I'm very thankful for like what I've learned in that program, and I will always start heavy and strong with Stern. And that I was also like our class rep. So I showed that like I was very involved, not just like academically. So that's how I feel like I built a big network. I know my class, I know class of 21. I judged the class of 2023 for their capstone projects. And then I met a bunch of people from the class of 2024. And then now here we are talking to the class of 2025. So it's kind of just, you can take yourself out of the classroom, but how do you stay this like Sterny?
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should talk a little bit about, thank you, Michelle. Maybe we should talk a little bit about, as I tell everyone, graduating from this program, our Stern alumni have amazing access. We are able to, each Stern alum is able to take advantage of 2 executive courses per academic year, which is many of our alumni take advantage of those amazing offerings. Since you guys are both fairly new grads, Michelle's already judging and doing a million different things. I mean, how do you, both try to engage as much as you can with the alumni community? And I'm sure there's more you could even do, but any advice on once you have graduated is staying involved? Henry, have you dipped into, of course you're an MSBAi ambassador, but anything else that you've tried to engage with in the Stern community or broader NYU community?
Yeah, for sure. So being outside of New York City, there's still a lot of opportunities. So I joined the local one in Philadelphia, and actually, when I was in Thailand last year, I met up a bunch of alumni there through the Bangkok like alumni NYU group. So definitely a global network,
That's
and
great.
just expanding on what Michelle said in the previous question. So like NYU is definitely an international brand. So that was definitely appealing to me when I applied. So like most of my family is from like Vietnam or China, and they don't even know like Cornell, Columbia,
But they know NYU.
Brown. Yeah, because at least people have heard of the city, New York. So
Yeah,
they associate it with the city, and they know it's a good brand, good school. So that's been my experience.
that's fantastic. So just in looking at the time, maybe I could just ask each of you to any imparting advice for prospective students listening in today. Michelle, do you have any advice?
Yeah, so kind of just adding again, like in simple terms, like I think you've come this far, that you're interested enough into the program, just kind of like sit there and backtrack and think of like, okay, where do I see myself in 5 years, 10 years? And not only like, what am I going to benefit from this in a career educational point of view, but also am I that person that's going to show up, go to the event, and then grow this network? Because honestly, NYU is a really, really big part of that. So it's like, even if you're not as comfortable, it's like, find a way to get comfortable. And I still am really close to my academic directors. I talk to professors all the time. It's not just like, oh, here are the classmates that I met throughout. Like, it's easy to sit next to someone in class and talk to them. But how do I like keep these relationships strong throughout the future? And especially for myself, that I live in New York, if a couple months pass by, then I'm already texting my professor, like, let's get coffee, let's catch up, I'll meet by campus, whatever it is, because we blink and then the years go by, but you never know what you can learn from them, or you bring a different set of eyes for them too. So now after the program, we're no longer like a student professor type of thing. We're just professionals. So,
Okay. You're a
you know,
great networker,
how do you
Michelle.
keep that network strong?
That's great. Henry, how
Sure,
about you?
yeah. Just to add on to that, I think when I was looking to apply, I put together a high-level plan, which is still my recommendation in terms of like how I'm going to manage this, and then really just pull the trigger. What I thought in my mindset was, the worst case scenario is I end up in exactly the same spot as I am today. Best case scenario, I have lifelong friends. I graduate from this program, brand name, and then I could get promoted to a higher level manager. So all those outcomes, actually, I was able to achieve. So I'm really happy with the outcome of the program, and that's definitely my suggestion in terms of mindset for yourself as well.
Well, it gives us tremendous joy to see when our students and alumni feel just meeting their goals, reaching these milestones of accomplishments. So that's amazing for us to hear, because it makes our jobs great, our daily jobs amazing. So thank you. I want to thank both of you today for such amazing feedback and advice for our prospective students. Both of you are part of our ambassador program. So once, if we have people on here that are going to apply, they may be wanting to reach out to you. Hopefully that's okay. And
Of course, add me on LinkedIn. Message
that's
me.
great. Yeah, LinkedIn, that's amazing. Thank you both for joining us today. Prachi, thank you for answering all the questions. Just in terms of next steps, for anyone that is interested in engaging with our program, we encourage you to fill out a preliminary information form. As Prachi said, our next deadline is coming up on November 1st. If you'd like to have a conversation with anyone on the admissions team, we're always here to speak to anyone. And people are writing, thank you to Henry and Michelle. Very nice. Everybody is very complimentary. thank you guys today, and we look forward to our students engaging with us, and please do apply. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day and good luck
Thank
to
you.
everybody applying.
Thank you so much.
Look, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.